In a world that never stopped screaming, it was a single, whispered note that finally forced millions to stop and listen. It didn't happen with a massive marketing campaign or a flashy Super Bowl performance. Instead, it happened in the quiet corners of the internet, where a young woman from Wigan sat before a microphone and did something that most modern artists have forgotten how to do. She didn't just sing. She reached through the screen and touched the very part of us we usually keep hidden. Lately, if you've scrolled through any social media platform, you've likely seen the same thing. Grown men in tears, teenagers stunned into silence, and thousands of comments claiming that music has finally been saved. The subject of this global emotional takeover is Lucy Thomas. But as her latest performance shatters records and leaves a trail of dampened eyes in its wake, a deeper question has begun to surface. What is it about this specific voice that triggers such a visceral, almost painful reaction in the human psyche? As it turns out, the beauty of the sound is only half the story. Behind the viral clips and the angelic face lies a journey of immense pressure, a defiant stand against the music industry's darkest habits, and a secret technique that borders on the scientific. But to understand why millions are crying today, we have to look at the moment the music almost stopped entirely. There is a specific phenomenon occurring in 2026 that psychologists are beginning to call the Lucy Thomas effect. In an era dominated by AI-generated tracks and auto-tune perfection, Lucy's latest release, a hauntingly stripped-back version of Starlight, has acted like a glitch in the system. It isn't just a song, it's a mirror. When you watch the footage of her recent live performances in London, the atmosphere is unlike any other concert. There is no frantic jumping or screaming. Instead, there is a heavy, sacred silence, a collective holding of breath. During her January showcase, she received no less than 15 standing ovations in a single evening. People weren't just applauding her talent, they were reacting to a sense of relief. But why now? Why is the world suddenly so fragile in the face of her gift? The answer lies in the specific frequency of her vocal break, that tiny, human crack in her voice that she has mastered not as a flaw, but as a weapon of pure empathy. It's a technical marvel that few singers can achieve without sounding forced. Yet for Lucy, it seems as natural as breathing. However, this level of connection comes with a heavy price, one that most fans never see. Because while the world is busy weeping to her melodies, Lucy has been navigating a transition that has destroyed almost every other artist who came before her. But that was only the beginning. To truly understand the weight behind her latest performance, you have to understand the character she has spent the last year inhabiting. Lucy was recently cast as the lead in a massive new West End musical. It tells the true story of a young girl from an Irish convent who, against every possible shred of logic, became the toast of London's high society and a superstar of the Edwardian era. The parallels between and Lucy are almost eerie. Both started as outsiders, girls from modest backgrounds with nothing but a voice that felt like it belonged to another century. When Lucy steps onto that stage, she isn't just acting. She is channeling the isolation of being a phenom in a world that expects you to fail. Insiders from the production have whispered about the intensity of her rehearsals. Lucy doesn't just do the scenes, she lives them. It's this immersion that has bled into her latest studio recordings. When you hear her cry in a song, it's often because she has spent the last 8 hours living in the shoes of a woman who had to fight for her dignity. But this role almost didn't happen. In fact, there was a point just 18 months ago when it looked like Lucy Thomas might disappear from the public eye forever. What happened next stunned everyone. The child star curse is one of the most consistent tragedies in the entertainment industry. We've seen it 100 times. A young talent captures the world's heart, only to be chewed up and spat out by the time they hit 21. When Lucy first appeared on The Voice Kids years ago, the vultures were already circling. Major record labels, the kind that prioritize tick trends over timeless talent, wanted to mold her. They wanted the dance beats the heavy production, and the marketable image. They wanted to turn the girl with the old soul into a product of the present. But Lucy, backed by her family, did something incredibly dangerous for a young artist. She said no. She chose to stay with Cavendish Records, an independent label that allowed her to remain uncorrupted. This decision is the silent engine behind why her music sounds so different today. She isn't singing for a board of directors, she's singing for the song itself. However, staying independent meant she had to work twice as hard to get the world's attention. She had to be perfect, every single time. That drive for perfection, however, was secretly pushing her toward a breaking point that no one saw coming. And this twist changed everything. Why do we physically cry when Lucy Thomas hits a high note? It isn't just sentimentality. There is a biological reason for the chills listeners report. Vocal experts have noted that Lucy possesses a rare control over her performance, the resonance of her vocal tract. When she sings, she creates a specific harmonic alignment that mimics the frequency of a human sob. Our brains are hardwired to respond to that frequency with immediate empathy. It's a biological hack that Lucy uses to bypass our intellectual defenses and go straight for the heart. In her latest recording of I'll Never Love Again, she utilizes a technique called dynamic tapering. She starts a note with the power of a Broadway veteran and slowly, almost imperceptibly, thins it out until it's a gossamer thread of sound. It creates a feeling of loss in the listener, a literal pulling away that leaves the audience feeling breathless. But mastering this science requires a level of vocal discipline that few can maintain. Behind the scenes, the regimen is grueling. No cold water, no loud environments, and hours of absolute silence every day to preserve the instrument. But as her technical skill reached its peak, a rumor began to circulate in the industry. A rumor that suggested Lucy was hiding a struggle that even her voice couldn't mask. But few people knew the truth. In January 2026, the release of Starlight changed the narrative forever. This wasn't just another cover. This was Lucy's soul laid bare. The lyrics deal with themes of profound loneliness and the search for a light in a world that feels increasingly dark. What the public didn't know at the time was that the recording session for this song was nearly canceled. Lucy had been dealing with the immense pressure of the debut, and sources say she was physically and emotionally exhausted. When she finally entered the booth with producer Chris Broom and a 32-piece orchestra, she didn't just sing the lyrics, she broke down. The version that millions are listening to today, the one causing the crying epidemic on YouTube, contains those raw, unedited moments of vulnerability. You can hear the weight of the world in her delivery. It became an accidental anthem for the mental health struggles of an entire generation. It was a moment of absolute honesty, but in the music industry, honesty is often a double-edged sword. As Starlight climbed the charts, the scrutiny on Lucy's personal life reached a fever pitch. Behind the scenes, something darker was happening. The world sees a young woman who seems to hit every note with ease. What they don't see is the woman who will spend 6 hours re-recording a single 3-second phrase because the emotional color wasn't exactly right. Lucy is her own harshest critic. In the lead-up to her recent Paris performance, the pressure to maintain her perfect reputation reached an all-time high. She isn't just competing with other singers. She is competing with the impossible standard she has set for herself. This obsession with excellence has led to long periods of isolation. To keep her voice at this superhuman level, Lucy often has to withdraw from the world. There were weeks where she didn't speak to anyone outside of her inner circle, using sign language and text to communicate just to save her vocal cords for the studio. Fans began to worry. They noticed she was becoming more private, less visible. A rumor even started that she was planning a permanent retirement after the run, exhausted by the demands of a career that required her to give so much of her spirit every night. But that was only the beginning of the mystery. In the middle of this storm of fame and pressure, there is one person who consistently brings Lucy back to earth: her sister. Their duets have become legendary, not just for the harmony of their voices, but for the visible bond between them. When Lucy is with the superstar, armor drops. You see the girl from Wigan again. Acts as Lucy's emotional anchor, the one person who doesn't care about the chart positions or the vocal performance. There was a pivotal moment during a rehearsal for a televised special where Lucy reportedly stopped mid-song, unable to continue. It was who stepped in, whispered something in her ear, and held her hand until she was ready to start again. This relationship is the secret battery that powers Lucy's career. Without this connection, the latest performance that everyone is crying over might never have happened. It was who encouraged her to lean into the sadness of the music rather than trying to hide it. The result was a performance that felt less like a song and more like a confession. And that confession has sparked a new era in music history. And this revelation caught everyone off guard. Why are millions crying? Because for the first time in a long time, they feel like they aren't being lied to. 2026 has become the year of the great reawakening in music. We are tired of the polished, the fake, and the manufactured. Lucy Thomas represents a return to what music was always supposed to be, a bridge between two souls. She hasn't relied on scandals, revealing outfits, or public feuds to stay relevant. She has relied solely on the purity of her intent. When people cry to her latest song, they aren't just crying for her, they are crying for themselves. They are crying for the beauty they forgot existed in the world. The Lucy Thomas effect is a signal to the entire industry that the audience is ready for depth again. She has effectively ended the era of disposable pop by proving that a single, honest voice is more powerful than 1,000 synthesizers. But as she stands at the peak of this new world, a final, stunning realization has emerged about where she is going next. What happened next stunned everyone. In the end, we don't cry because Lucy Thomas is sad. We cry because her voice reminds us that we are human. In an age where everything is being replaced by algorithms and automated logic, her latest performance is a defiant shout, or rather, a beautiful whisper, that some things can never be replicated. Her journey from a quiet girl in Lancashire to a global symbol of emotional truth isn't just a success story. It's a survival story. She survived the industry, she survived the pressure of perfection, and she survived the child star trap by holding on to the one thing that truly mattered: her soul. As the final notes of her latest hit fade away, they leave us with a thought-provoking insight. Perhaps the reason we are all so moved isn't that Lucy's voice is so high, but that she is willing to go so low, into the depths of human emotion where most of us are afraid to go alone. She doesn't just sing for us, she feels for us. And as long as she continues to do that, the world will keep listening and the tears will keep falling, not in sorrow, but in gratitude for a voice that finally, truly hears us back.